Hey, Global Village, what's up? Okay, this morning I woke up to listening to a Donald Trump press interview, which is always a wonderful way to start the morning. And one of the things that really struck me was how there's a sort of pantomime performed between Trump and the reporters now, which really is the height of absurdity. It just leaves me in a state of almost profound disbelief that this is how people who purport to be adults actually engage with each other, and the rest of the world should actually listen to these people and take anything they're saying seriously. Despite the fact that it's such an absurd level of nonsense that it belongs in an Onion article, not on the world stage, as world leaders tell us their version of reality. So I just want to recap the actual reality occurring in the Middle East right now, because it has very little or nothing to do with what Trump is saying, and indeed the way the reporters are kind of playing the game in inverted commas to kind of engage him as if this is a serious conversation without ever pushing back, without ever pointing out the obvious logical fallacies in his delusional little version of what's happening in the world. It's almost like, he's pulling up a little colouring book for children, and then he's grabbing his crayons and scribbling in the colours and saying, and see, this is why we are the most successful, amazing country in the world. And no one has ever seen a country as impressive and powerful as America. And, we'll if they don't do what we say, we're going to kick their ass. We're going to bomb them into oblivion. Okay, this sounds like a intelligible version of reality, of what's actually happening. It begs the question, why didn't he just do that right from the beginning and get it all over and done with in a few days? Oh, that's right, because in reality, this isn't how things work. So, in the Middle East, what we've come to understand is that Iran is more than willing to play the escalation game, and they will go up the escalation ladder. So, if Trump does indeed decide to bomb their critical infrastructure, their water desalination plants, their energy infrastructure, if they do that, well, Iran is going to do exactly the same to the GCC nations. And what is that going to cause? Well, it's going to cause a humanitarian crisis, the likes of which we have not ever seen before in the modern era, like the worst ever. Millions and millions of people without clean drinking water. It will result in a sort of an instant sort of refugee crisis that the world has just never had to confront to a whole new scale. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, I don't really give a shit. That's their problem. Okay. The global economy, primarily the way the economy is run on oil, is going to be completely fucked in the ass. And there will be downstream economic repercussions right across the planet. Again, the likes of which we have never seen before. And Trump has someone has clearly finally been talking into his ear, and it's managed to penetrate his little pea brain so that he understands now that there is no winning. Threatening to bomb Iran into oblivion does not result in America winning anything. It results in a catastrophic economic collapse, global economic collapse, that will be unprecedented in modern human history. So this deal that this MOU, this memorandum of understanding that kicks off this new diplomatic effort, is a clear indicator that Trump finally understands that brute force, bullying tactics is not going to result in a positive outcome, not for the US, not for anyone, not for Iran, not for any of the Gulf states, not for the global economy. The only way out of this is diplomacy. So, in point of fact, uplifting Iran is a far better tactic for ending this sort of constant antagonism between Iran and the West, because effectively making Iran part of the sort of club, the Gulf club, making them a wealthy country, is actually the best tactic from the US point of view, and it always has been. The problem, of course, is that Israel sees Iran as an existential threat. So the US has two choices here. There's either an inflection point where the US essentially decouples itself from Zionism and recognizes that the right strategy is to not threaten to destroy Iran, but to uplift it and let it join the hedonistic club of other Gulf states that have been sucking on US cock for decades now, then that is a far more effective strategy. Israel, this is a big spoiler for Israel, because there is a thing called the Greater Israel Project, and you better believe it's real. It is why they are continuing to push into Lebanon, because they see it as an opportunity to take more land. And they will call it a security interest, but realistically, Israel is and has always been about expanding its territory, because it only has currently a rather modest amount of land, and it can never, simply geographically, if it does not expand, it can never become that sort of superpower, the dominating force that it wants to be ultimately in the Middle East. So there is a conflict of interest here, and eventually the US is either going to have to decide whether it wants to continue to back the Zionist project, even though it's likely to bring catastrophe and major economic hardship right across the planet, or whether they want to actually uplift Iran and bring quite possibly a period of much greater economic stabilization across the earth, but in so doing, effectively stymie Israel's goals and their long-term goals. So we are at a point where we are hitting a situation where what happens when a movable object strikes an irresistible force. I don't know how this is going to play out. It's going to be ugly on one side or the other. Personally, I'm sure if you've listened to my videos, if you see the flag sitting on my screen right now, you know I support Palestinian liberation and I support equality in that region. I believe there should only be one state and there should be equal rights for all. So I'm not saying there shouldn't be in Israel, but I'm saying the Zionist project of the chosen ones and how they are somehow of greater value than everyone else on the planet is 100% certified horse shit. And what we're watching really is just nothing but colonialism in the modern era. That's all it is. And, you know, colonialism is a disgraceful history of virtually every modern Western country. You know, New Zealand has its own shameful history of colonialism. The way we stole land from the Maori and the way we treated the indigenous population. Australia has that history and the way it treated the Aborigine. The US has that history in the way it treated the Native American Indians, stole their land, etc., ethnic cleansing, all of that ugly, embarrassing history that we kind of want to forget about, and which is now playing out in real time with Israel in the Middle East. Really is that simple. Anyway, bendy out.